Welcome to the Envelope's Emmy Contender Series. I'm Michael Ordonia for the Los Angeles Times. Today we're talking to Christian Slater, who plays Mr. Robot, among other things, in the TV series Mr. Robot. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
I have to get one thing out of the way first. We were talking before we started.
Right.
Fans have to know why the show isn't in production yet.
Mainly, I think it's not in production yet because Sam Esmail has been, he's been working on another project. It's Homecoming, I think, and he's been working with Julia Roberts on that particular production. It's an Amazon production based on a very popular podcast. So he's been busy with that. So he wanted to squeeze that into his schedule, get that done, and then the writer's room opens again for Mr. Robot, I believe, in June. That's when I asked him, when can I start writing, when can I let you know of some of the ideas I have, because I don't want to annoy you. He said June is a good time. So I'm waiting for that day to come, and then we can start actually talking about it. And then we go into production, start filming again in November.
Okay, so fans, don't worry, it is coming back.
Yes.
Not for a little while.
That's right. But like we were also saying, Sam wants to keep this show, like you said, each season has sort of had its own identity, which I really liked. So we'll see. He's always wanted to keep it a very contained and, very tight show, and he's never wanted to go, take advantage of the audience or, push it further than he thinks it needs to go. So we'll see if, this could be the last season. He could potentially wrap it up here. We'll see. But it's all up to him. He's going to make that decision.
You just caused fainting across the internet.
Well, I just want to be, up front. But, he may just totally blow your minds with season 4, and you'll be satisfied.
Oh, I'll say season 3 showed no signs of fatigue at all.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, I loved it. I loved the show. I love being a part of it. The whole thing from the get-go has been a remarkable and wonderful experience.
Okay, well, let's talk about you playing this guy, playing Mr. Robot.
Sure.
Yeah. As opposed to Edward.
Right.
You got Heather's on your resume and Pump Up the Volume and this, and I'd argue Will Scarlett too.
Sure, thanks.
They're all sort of outsider, counterculture types.
Yeah. No,
so is that because you choose those roles, or do they follow you around?
Perhaps those roles choose me somehow. I don't go out there specifically to think, this would be right for me, but somehow directors, producers have seen me as sort of an anarchist-type character. It's the least thing from what I actually am. It's so I don't think I'm too much of an anarchist, but for some reason they see me as a kind of devilishly, causing trouble sort of guy. But, that's not ever what I try to do. But at least I get to exercise that in these projects that I've been attached to.
Oh yeah, I guess that's so that they serve the function for you that Mr. Robot serves for Elliot, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Completely. That is definitely the other side of the coin in that relationship. I've always said, if whatever Elliot is not comfortable doing, if he's not comfortable pulling that trigger, of course, I can come in and get the job done.
Yeah, he's sort of like Elliot's id in that he does all of these things that Elliot knows he shouldn't do.
Right, exactly. things that he would want to do perhaps, but maybe wouldn't feel ethically right about doing a lot of these things. So look, it gives me an opportunity to certainly have a lot of fun. I like being that kind of character. I like being that guy. I love the scenes in season 3 with the therapist where I got to be a little, dangerously flirty with Gloria. I enjoyed doing those scenes and, getting to create a lot of that stuff. Those are one of the aspects of this show, I think, from day one has been, just Sam Esmail's willingness to be open and to collaborate, and he's always said, this isn't his show, this is our show. So he's been great about, a director that you can actually talk to and share and discuss ideas with and that sort of thing.
Well, how much did you know about who you really were playing when you signed on? I mean, how far ahead did he?
He knew. I think he knows in his mind very much the whole journey and story that he wants to tell. But when I first came in and had the meetings with him, I basically, I had an instinct or a feeling just from reading the pilot script that this guy wasn't really there. And I don't want to give anything away to anybody who hasn't seen the show, but there was just a very mysterious aspect to this guy, which I really loved. But I didn't think anybody on television would really be willing to take that chance or have it go in that particular direction. So I thought it was going to be, a little bit more cookie cutter and less risk taking than it actually ended up being. Mm-hmm. So I just remember that first meeting with Sam, sitting there and asking him the question, and he said, "Do you really want to know?" And I said, "Yes, I think I do." And he explained to me, and then he told me more and what the relationship between me and Elliot actually was. And I got, like I've always said, very excited from that point on, and was thrilled to be a part of it. I really, from the get-go, I was pretty excited and just had a feeling that it was going to be a different kind of show. And even in that, you never know how audiences are going to receive it or what the reaction is going to be, but yeah, it's so far been quite wonderful.
I hope we can assume people watching this 3 seasons in know something about who you are.
I mean,
shouldn't be too much of a spoiler.
Yeah, it's Sam. Yeah, I thought after season 1, everybody had seen the show, and I thought, I could talk about it freely. And I remember being at Comic-Con and revealing something, and Sam was like, "No, nobody, not everybody's seen it, man. What do you do?" Of course, I would be the one that puts his foot in the mouth and does that whole thing. But what are you gonna do?
All right, from an acting standpoint, you get to play the guy who has no inhibitions, but you also get to play the dad who is really deeply rooted in the responsibilities he has to his family and his love for Elliot.
Yeah.
So. For you, is it fun switching back and forth, and is there sometimes confusion?
I think more in season 1 there was confusion. I remember doing certain scenes and Sam coming in and because he didn't direct every episode in the first season, so we would have other directors, but Sam was there 98% of the time anyway, and I was extraordinarily grateful because he is the architect of this show. So there were definitely moments where having just played the Mr. Robot character, I would go in to play Edward and have sort of a little bit too much of a swagger and a little too confident and a little too comfortable, and he would remind me that you're the dad now, and you're not this cool guy, and so that would bring me back into the situation that I was supposed to be in, and I love that aspect. I mean, that made it, having gotten that guidance from him, I think was really helpful in creating a much clearer distinction between the two characters. So I was very happy for that.
Well, I mean, Edward is as grounded in reality as he can be. I mean, he's got this very bad situation with his marriage. And
it's a mess. Yeah,
he's dying.
Right.
He's got all kinds of financial worries.
Oof. Yeah. No. He's. I'm really interested in what is going to happen in season 4, and the possibilities I think are endless, and I mean we could certainly go back in time, I think, and look at what actually happened, and I'm curious as to why the relationship between he and his wife became so complicated and difficult, and what is it that she's really so upset and angry about. So hopefully Sam will be willing to explore a lot of those dynamics. I'd like to, I'd be interested very much in seeing a lot of those aspects of the show that we don't know about yet being explored.
Yeah, the little bits that you guys have given us so far seem to come out at the right moment. So,
right, yes, sort of, sprinkled out there. And listen, I've been amazed and always impressed since day one. What was interesting about doing season 1 is that we didn't know what was going to happen from week to week. We would just shoot each episode, and so each time we would sit in the read-through room and read through these scripts, it was always very unique and very surprising, which was kind of exciting to have that week to week. And since then, with season 2 and season 3, they've given us all of the scripts from day one, and which has also been great because it's been like this thick binder of and it's like shooting a movie, really. So it's kind of been interesting to discover and to know what the arcs are of each and every individual character. That's been exciting. And we get those surprises in those 2 days that we read through those scripts. But there was something fun about it being each and every week, particularly for me. I don't know. I really enjoyed being surprised, and from what I heard, I was very verbal in a lot of those read-throughs. A lot of what, and, a lot of excited, emphatic noises.
Yeah, the language that we can't use right now.
Somewhat, yeah.
So you became a producer in season 2, is that right?
Yeah.
So how did that come about, and what do you think your impact has been as a producer?
Wow. Well, again, working with Sam, this being a very collaborative process, I think from season 1, we did establish that kind of relationship, that we were going to be in this thing together. So I've tried to participate in whatever seems reasonable without stepping on anybody's toes or putting my nose in where it doesn't necessarily belong. So, to a certain degree, I've tried to handle that with kid gloves and as much responsibility as I can. And to a large respect, it's me showing up and hitting my mark and knowing my lines and keeping everything moving as smoothly as I possibly can on the set. Just being a part of a larger team and not looking to cause any problems.
Well, can you point to something that shows your impact as a producer so far?
Wow, something specific?
Yeah. I'm curious.
Curious? Yeah, I mean, nothing really comes to mind right now, and I hate to think I was just sort of taking advantage of it, but, just, again, working with anonymous content, talking about how we're going to promote the show, and again, talking to Sam about particular directions of where he thinks my character is going to go. Just being as available as I possibly can be to the production, and like I said, showing up and not causing any ruckus or just doing what I can to be part of a team.
We touched on the different feelings that each season's had. Season 2 definitely takes some narrative risks, shall we say?
Yes, it does. Yes, season 2. I was very excited. I mean, that Alf episode I thought was certainly the craziest thing any of us had ever done or been a part of, and I mean, I loved the nostalgia of it. I loved having that character there on the set with us. I loved the how we shot it. It was really as true to a sitcom as we possibly could do it. I mean, we had the 3 cameras, so it was we tried to honor that form of storytelling as best we possibly could. We had the laugh track going, so we had to sort of act around that. Mm-hmm. So again, Sam Esmail is a guy who has a great attention to all the little details, and he likes to do long takes. I mean, he likes to get the whole thing, and he's not comfortable until the whole take is about as honest and real as it could possibly be. I mean, and that even comes to like the fight scenes. And sometimes I watch what's happening with Rami in a lot of those scenes where he has to get thrown around, and it's sometimes hard to watch because Sam really wants it to look as authentic as it possibly can look without actually crossing that line where somebody gets hurt. But I guess they've found a way with the stunt coordinator and with Rami, and he is such a good actor to make those things look very, very authentic. To the point where I get uncomfortable for him because I really do like him. It's tough for me because sometimes I feel like, oh, Mr. Robot should probably jump in there, which I have done before, to sort of help him out. But then he does also want to face those anxiety-producing situations as well. So we have that back and forth going too.
Yeah, well, in the case of the Alpha episode, it was a situation where Mr. Robot couldn't help him directly, so he helped him in another way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought that was certainly a creative and far-out way of where you're right. I mean, I did come in there while he was going through a very tough and brutal physical experience, and I was trying to help him through that, and I guess the kindest way that I could.
I was glad to hear you say you were uncomfortable because you liked him, and rather than saying, I'm glad to see Rami getting.
No. I mean, I really do love that guy, and I mean, from day one, we have established a great relationship. And the first scene that we shot was in the Ferris wheel. And we were trapped in that cage together for about 6 or 7 hours. So it really created an opportunity for us to build a foundation right there with our relationship, and make each other laugh. And we were literally thrown into a cage together. So it could have been like what do they call it, MMA fight? But it ended up being a cage fight. Yeah, but it ended up being a love fest. It was great.
Before we get to some questions from the internets, I just want to complete that thought about season 2, some of the narrative tricks in it. I mean, season 1, we learn the truth of some things, but in season 2, we're essentially the hostage of an unreliable narrator. Doesn't really reveal until late in season 2 that he's in prison.
Right.
So were you guys worried about that? Were you worried about what fan reaction might be to being tricked for most of the season?
It's tricky. I mean, every season, Sam calls us and talks us through what the season is going to look like, and so you're hearing it through a telephone basically, and you're hearing him describe to you and what's going to happen, and so there's nothing visual to kind of look at and say, oh, I can figure this out or grasp onto it. So by the time he got to telling me what happens in episode 6, my mind was blown. I was like, I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh my God, that's going to be really tricky if you can pull that off. I mean, now we do live in a world where people do break things down and analyze, and visually there's so many more clues that come into play when you're trying to do something like that. I think I respect greatly what they were attempting to do, but again, with the internet and so many eyeballs looking at things and looking to decipher, and they knew that there was a question there and what was going on, because I think that had been hinted at, that people were kind of able to sort of put 2 and 2 together to some degree. I will say what I enjoyed about that was just how annoyed and angry Mr. Robot was. Like how Elliot could want to be in this fantasy situation and live at his mother's house. I mean, I really, just as a character, really couldn't comprehend why he would want to torture me that way, because I certainly didn't want to be around the woman. So yeah, that really threw me for a loop.
Okay, we have to ask some questions that have been sent in.
This is from the internet?
You bet.
Do we do this live also?
Yes.
Or so there's another thing
all
after
live.
this?
Yeah.
Or is this the live thing?
No, this is all live, and then we'll finish with a lightning round.
This is all live?
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
So, Martin on Twitter asks,
this is Martin Wallstrom, isn't it? I think it is. I think it's Tyrell.
But I bet that the question might might clue you in.
Okay.
If you were forced to join a boy band,
Right.
present or past, which one would it be?
Wow, that is a very good question. My daughter's very into One Direction. You know, she loves those guys, but that would be weird. I don't want to do that. So look, I think I would have to go with the Backstreet Boys. You know, they've had some great tunes. I Want It That Way is when that comes on, you can't help but sing that. You know, so yeah, I would do that now, but my voice is tired and I don't want to do that.
Fair enough. I might say the Monkees.
Oh, the Monkees, great call. Oh man.
Especially Latter-day Monkees.
Why didn't I say that? You
now,
stole it.
Backstreet Boys forever.
Son of a gun.
Backstreet Boys. All right. Tal on Twitter
I
asks.
say the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles would have been cool. That was a kind of.
That doesn't count.
That's not a boy band, right? Okay, yeah, what's up? And then I said the Beatles and ruined everything. Oh well.
Now Beatles fans are going to be after you. Tal on Twitter asks, what's...
That was Martin, though. I know that was him.
Martin who?
Martin Wallstrom, our Tyrell. You troublemaker. Okay, go ahead.
Tal on Twitter asks, what is your favorite
Towel?
scene?
Towel?
T-A-L.
Oh, towel. Okay, sure.
What's your favorite scene you filmed in Mr. Robot?
Wow, favorite scene. Well, I think it would probably have to be the Times Square scene at the end of season 1. That one was just for me, growing up in New York and having spent my life walking through Times Square, and I never dreamed or imagined that I would get the opportunity to actually do a scene like that in the middle of Times Square, surrounded by a bunch of people that I really respected and admired, and got to say those lines, and I love that experience. That was fantastic. It was fun rehearsing for it too. I mean, I was given that monologue about a week and a half before we shot it, so I was kind of a little freaked out about the idea of going into Times Square and shooting that, because so the lights and the things and a lot of distractions in that particular environment, obviously, and a lot of people, a lot of energy. So it was fun for me to I just went to Times Square and rehearsed that scene endlessly until pretty much the day we came to shoot it. So that way, by the time I got there, I didn't care we were in Times Square.
That hadn't occurred to me, but that must have been a lot of fun to just be out there shooting that scene.
It was. I think that's always been my favorite so far. Yeah. I mean, and then Alf, of course, was great. But the Times Square one I really enjoyed.
Yeah, but Alpha's such a diva.
Yeah.
A fan on Twitter asks, what inspired you to become an actor?
Wow. Well, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for, I think, 40 years. I mean, I started at 8. It was fun. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy playing around. I enjoy goofing around. Being an actor, you do get that opportunity. I mean, you literally get to put on somebody else's clothes and immerse yourself into somebody else's life for that period of time. So that is certainly an aspect of it that I love. I mean, I love that escape. I love, gosh, when it's great writing. When you do get to do something like a scene in Times Square, those are exciting moments. They're little earmarked moments. And the other thing too is that I love doing theater. I mean, I love being a part of theater. That's certainly a great part of my foundation. And I think just that live environment, having an audience right there to immediately respond and sort of let you know how you're doing, I think always gave me great joy, because people seemed happy.
Well, you just finished Glengarry Glen Ross.
Right, in London. Yeah, I was doing that. I did Glengarry Glen Ross in London for about 5 months over there, and that was pretty much right after we finished season 3. I flew off to do that, and that was a great experience. First of all, I love being in London. I hadn't done a play there in about 12 years. I did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest the last time I was there, which was really fun. But this Glengarry Glen Ross, that's certainly a play that I have always long admired, a movie I've always admired. It kind of sets the bar for I think acting, and to get the opportunity to play Ricky Roma was something that I couldn't say no to.
So, what was your takeaway from 5 months of that?
Wow. Well, David Mamet is a genius. This was a situation where, that play is certainly a time capsule, and it is not to be tampered with in any way. So, my takeaway is there is something great, there always is, but something great about really respecting the author and the time and that they took to create this experience, to create these words, to create these characters, and really honor that, and not take it for granted, and not go out there and try and do your own thing. I mean, there's very specific rules with Glengarry Glen Ross. I mean, even extraordinarily specific rules when it comes to the staging of it. It's got to be a certain way. So I really I respect and admire that David Mamet has put so many parameters and boundaries around that, so you really know how far you can go and how far you can't. It's wonderful.
Well, as you just said, you've been at this quite a while. Mr. Robot has an awfully fervent following. Okay. So is it, would you say that that's the thing that you most get stopped for on the street now, or is it still maybe Heather's? Or
I think the thing that I get stopped for, certainly it is Mr. Robot, absolutely. There are a lot of people that have really enjoyed this show, which I'm very grateful for. But I think True Romance is sort of the one that people kind of mention a lot, and which that was a very special movie. I mean, I'm so happy that I was a part of something that people enjoyed, and again, I got to play a great character and work with phenomenal people. I mean, that was certainly one of the best assembled casts of characters that I think is, I don't know if they've been able to assemble a cast like that since. Well, maybe.
Script.
And the script, of course. I mean, that was Quentin Tarantino's, it was in his nightstand or something. That was the first script that he wrote. I mean, that's sort of the legend behind that. Yeah.
It's, you could do worse.
Do worse, yeah, you could do worse.
Before we get to the infamous lightning round,
okay,
I just want to ask about those fans. Have you had a particular fan interaction for Mr. Robot that really stays with you, that was neat or memorable?
Well, certainly going to a lot of the Comic-Con events have been great, and getting to actually meet fans, and it's surreal to have people really dress up as a character you've done, and do it in such an authentic way is fantastic. And I mean, I really admired this one couple that dressed up as me and as Elliot, and also had QWERTY in a fishbowl. I thought that was really impressive. So I admired that, and I brought them up on stage with me, and just thought that was great. I am also, I'd like to say I've done this, but I haven't yet. I did. I have been asked to officiate a wedding and things like that. And so I did get my. I'm now a Dudas priest. Like from The Big Lebowski. I'm now an ordained minister. So that's pretty cool. Next time somebody asks me, I'll try and show up and do that.
Now that you've said it, you can get flooded with those requests.
Why not?
All right, the lightning round is upon you.
Okay.
These are some questions that we ask of everybody. So.
All right, don't feel threatened.
Yes. All right.
This is live. All right. Oh man.
What was the last show you binge watched?
Oh man. Last show I binge watched. Honestly, it's probably Bob's Burgers. That's there you go. Oh, you have a winner. That and maybe The Bachelor. All right. Yeah, there you go. But we'll go with Bob's Burgers.
It's a little cooler sounding than
Does it?
Bachelor.
I mean, look, a lot of people love that Bachelor stuff. I mean, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise.
You included, apparently.
Man, crazy stuff.
Okay, if you could go back and be on any TV show ever, what would it be?
This is easy. Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I wouldn't wear a red shirt, but I wouldn't want to be one of those. Well, maybe for like a cameo or something.
You killed in one episode.
Yeah, those poor guys. But
So-
yeah, man, if I could just go back in time and walk around that bridge with Kirk and Spock, and I mean, I love those guys. I love those guys. I mean, it's like comfort food for me. I mean, I'll just sit there and watch an episode on Netflix, and it just makes me feel safe and comfortable. I'm getting really emotional about it.
No, there's a certain magic to the original series. Look,
Yeah, I love it.
Next Generation is clearly a better
Great.
made series.
Great show. Yeah, of course.
And I love the.
I mean, that was my, the original Star Trek is pretty much my generation, so that's what I started with, and I guess I'm loyal. What can I say? I'm loyal. But I do love Patrick Stewart and John Luke, and great. It's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a better made series, but the original series has, there's something beautiful and wonderful to it.
So it's very charming. Yeah, it's great. That and Batman. Come on, Batman, another one. I would have loved to have been on that one too. Oh my God.
A lot of people watch TV to unwind, so what do you do to unwind?
Wow. What do I do to unwind? I certainly walk the dogs like 4 times a day. I mean, that is very unwinding. That is really, and it comes also with, you have to practice some humility in that situation as well. I mean, so it comes with a lot of perks and benefits and some drawbacks, but it tends to keep you very human. So that is very unwinding. That, and this is going to sound crazy, but the dishes. I somehow that's my job at home, is to do the dishes, and that keeps me, keeps me pretty. It's something meditative about that, which I enjoy.
Oh, I can see that. Sort of wax on, wax off of the dishes.
There's something about that, yeah. I also go to the gym. I go boxing is another thing I do. I guess I'm relaxed afterwards. I'm not really that into it before. But afterwards, typically, I'm pretty endorphined out. I feel good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess if you're not getting beaten up too much during it, then you can.
Yeah, no. He never punches back. He always holds up the pads. It's great.
What do you know now that you wish you knew on your first acting job?
Whew, wow. I mean, my first acting job, I was 8, so.
So a lot.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, a lot. I mean, an endless amount of stuff. I mean. But look, the first acting job was it was on a soap opera. Again, I was 8 years old. I was playing a kid who falls off a skateboard, and it goes into like the free clinic to get checked out and make sure I'm okay. And I had like 3 lines, and I did my scene. They went to commercial, and everybody applauded. Mm-hmm. So I was hooked from that moment on, and that was it. I just I went, wow, this is fun. Look, that's probably what I learned at that particular time. And it's certainly a series of highs and lows, and it's a roller coaster ride, without question. I mean, it is a roller coaster ride. But you just hang in there and keep learning about yourself. And I think one of the biggest things I probably learned today that I would have liked to have given myself, I don't know if I would have heard it at 8 years old, but this too will pass. That is I think a very important lesson. I mean, whether it's, good or bad, this too will pass. So enjoy the moment, which is what I'm doing now. Right? This too will pass, but I'm in the now and I'm enjoying it. So far.
Believe it or not, the next question is, have you ever been fired from an acting job?
Wow, man, no, I have not. I have not been fired from an acting job. I mean, so far, so good. No, I mean, once I understudied a kid in a show, and I mean, I never got to go on. That was something that I never got the opportunity to do. But no, I've never. Thank you. I've never been. I've never had to be fired or let go or any of those types of situations. Whatever situation I've been in, I've always at least done my best to show up and be as professional as I can be, and because at the end of the day, I do just simply love what I do, and I really enjoy it. So I wouldn't want to do anything to really jeopardize that.
All right, the last one. Which Golden Girls character do you most identify with? Dorothy, Rose, Blanche, or Sophia?
I mean, that's not even in the realm. I have no idea.
I don't watch the show.
If you'd asked me about designing women,
Designing women, then.
I would have. No, I'm just kidding.
We had Annie Potts here recently.
Oh.
You could have just said the one Annie Potts played, because she's awesome.
I could have said that. Oh man. Well, look, but I'm going to go with Betty White.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, Betty White is a legend and an amazing human, and I actually got to work with her in a movie called Hard Rain. We did that a long time ago. But I mean, man, she is a trooper, and I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for a woman who's been in this business and is still having so much fun. It was fun to go to the 40th SNL reunion, and she was a part of that, and it was hilarious making out with Bradley Cooper there. I was like, yeah, you go. So that's who I most identify with.
That's fair. All right, you have answered all of our questions.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much for coming by. Really
Great
appreciate
job.
it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Folks, if you want to see any more of these chats, you can go to latimes.com, and they're all there.
LA Times.